Aloha mai kako and mahalo for joining our presentation entitled Māui-a-kalana, Māui-a-nai. Oau o Paul Kalani Kaawa-Flores Jr., and I am humbled to be your presenter today. The mo'olelo of Maui spans across the entire Pacific region. Dr. Catherine Luomala, in her book Maui of a Thousand Tricks, researched and compiled an expansive collection of Maui stories throughout Polynesia, Micronesia, and Melanesia. One account tells us that Maui made his way as far as Uperu, which a few scholars refer to as the South American country of Peru. Westervelt provides a possible origin of the name Maui in his preface of this book, Legends of Maui, a demigod of Polynesia, and his mother, Hina. Westervelt stated MacDonald, known at the time as Reverend MacDonald, a writer of the New Hebrides Islands, provides a derivation of the name Maui, primarily from the Arabic word moihi, which means causing to live or life, which applies sometimes to the gods and sometimes to chiefs as preservers and sustainers of their followers. Westervelt goes on to state that the Maui story probably contains a larger number of unique and ancient myths than that of any other legendary character in the mythology of any nation. In Hawaii, the origins of Maui is recorded in the 15th wa of the Kumulipo. According to the Kumulipo, Maui is a descendant of the Unu line. Starting in line 1984, we see Akalana was the man and Hina Keahi was his wife. Born was Maui the first. Born was Maui the middle one. Born was Maui Ki'iki'i. Born was Maui of the loincloth with which Akalana girded his loins, for which Hina became pregnant, and by fire brought to life a fowl. An egg was that child, which Hina brought forth. Her husband was not a fowl, yet a chicken was brought to life. When the child cooed or chirped, Hina became puzzled and asked, "It was not from sleeping with the man that this child come. It is a special child born to Hina Keahi, Hina of the fire." There are two main sources that specifically speak of Māui-a-kalana Māui-a-nai. The first being Samuel Māui-a-kalani Kaawa-Flores, and the second, Thomas George Thrum. Sterling and Summers' Sites of Oahu book provides a synopsis of Maui stories that are attributed to both Kaawa-Flores and Thrum. These stories include the story of Maui's birthplace in Waianae, Maui and the Secret of Fire, Maui's flying expedition, and Maui and his magic fishhook, Māui-a-kalani. For this presentation, I will not go into detail any of the stories. Instead, I will be focusing on specific pana or significant sites where these stories take place. Here, I have a Google Earth image where I pinned pana locations that are specific to Māui-a-kalana stories, Māui-a-nai. To familiarize yourself with the Waianae Moku, here you can see Barrington Highway and Piliokahe, which is the boundary that ends the Ewa Moku and starts the Waianae Moku. The first of the 9 ahupua'a in Waianae Moku is Nanapuli, a valley that is bordered by Pu'umanawahua and Pu'uheleakala. And the next ahupua'a is Lualua Lei, where the story of Māui-a-kalana takes place. Now, utilizing the beautiful art print by Kaipo Ki'aha, the top part of the image is of Māui-a-kalana pulling up the islands or attempting to bring the islands closer together. In the Waianae stories, this takes place here in the area known as Uleava and Ka'olai, which according to Kamakau is also the actual birthplace of Maui. At Uleava and Ka'olai, here, Ka'alai Hina told Māui-a-kalana that the power to bring the islands closer together belonged to the fish known as Unihokahi, who can be found at Ponahakeone, which is a fishing shrine right off the coast of Uleava. Now let's revisit Pu'uheleakala, which is the site where Māui-a-kalana lassoed the sun. What's very interesting is the inoa of Pu'uhele'akala, which is often translated as to follow the sun. Now, when you study the actual position of Pu'uhele'akala itself, you will see that if you go from the top of Pu'uhele'akala and make your way down towards the ocean, it pretty much goes direct or due west. As we know, the sun rises in Kahikina in the east and sets in Komohana in the west. And so Pu'uhele'akala literally follows the sun. The last two pana I would like to point out is Keana o Hina, Hina's cave, and Pohaku o Maui, or Maui Rock. Here is a picture taken from Cultural Surveys Hawaii's Cultural Impact Assessment for the PVT proposed composting site, which is proposed to be built at the foot of Hina's cave. As you can see, the photo points out the site of Hina's cave as you drive up Lualualei Naval Road. According to my knowledge, there isn't any up-close photos of Hina's cave, just photos from afar. So I contacted PVT to ask permission to enter their property so I could take closer photos of Hina's cave. Here we have an up-close picture of Hina's cave, which is actually part of a cave system. As you can see, here's one cave to the left and a few more caves to the right. This picture is a close-up of the cave to the left, which is a bigger cave than that of the two on the right. The next is of the first of the two on the right. And the last. Our next slide is actually a drone video of the view of Hina's cave. I'll let the records show that I'm not a professional drone pilot, and so I'm still learning how to control the drone. But I will move the photo manually so that we can zoom in just a little so you can see the cave to the left and transition to the cave systems towards the right that you've seen in the previous photos. So you can see some pohaku at the foot of this cave. Now we transition more. Where's the other end of the cave systems? The next drone video is a view from Hina's cave as a vantage point or kilohana, looking out towards Pu'uhele'akala, Uleava, Ka'olai, and Makai, and the Makai areas of Lualualei Ahupua'a. Here you see the edge or the end point of Pu'uhele'akala, stretching out into the ocean. Here you can see Uleava Stream and the area known as Ka'olai. And in this particular area from this vantage point is the area where I'll be talking about next, which is the Garden Grove area where the Pohaku o Maui is actually located. And here we see the back and front sections of this particular pu'u, which is seen in the map. It's pu'u'ohulu, so we have pu'u'ohulu'uka and pu'u'ohulukai here. And of course, the Makai area of Lualualei Ahupua'a. And here, the last panel, which is the famous Maui Rock. Now, according to J. Gilbert McAllister's Archaeology of Oahu report, and I quote from his report, he says that the name of the pohaku is that after the hero Maui, who is said to have landed here when he first came to the Hawaiian Islands from the south. This stone at the time was surrounded by water, and it was here that Maui reposed and sunned himself. This is the current picture of Pohaku o Maui, or the Maui rock, and you can see behind is Pu'ohulu Kai. Now here again on the map is where Pohaku o Maui is located at the Garden Groves area. Just to the left of that is the stoplight, the Hakima stoplight. Here you can see Uleava. And from this vantage point, gazing out towards Keanaohina Pu'uheleakala, I'll be going a little bit more about this particular vantage point in my closing slide. So here we are at the end of my presentation. I'd like to share this particular Google Map video that my colleague Rocky Midro helped me to put together, entitled Māui-a-kalana Revealed. Our theme for this year's Ahapuka calls us to Ealu, Eahu, Ea. Now we need to remember, in the Māui-a-kalana stories, Maui didn't do things by himself. He needed to seek the kopua of others in order for him to accomplish his tasks. These accomplishments could not be possible without Maui trusting and building upon his ike kupuna. And so by doing so, the answers to his questions were revealed to him. Our kupuna in Waianae reminds us that Maui is still among us. And if you are in the right place at the right time, he will reveal himself. And so from the vantage point of the Maui rock, as I explained in the slide previous to this, you will be able to see the silhouette of Māui-a-kalana reposing himself. The profile is made up actually of Palikea, Pu'uheleakala, and Pu'umanawahua mountain ranges. And that is how you'll be able to see the image of Maui only during the time of the sun rising. The image of Maui, you can see his eyes, his nose, his mouth, which is the mountain range of Palikea, then moving up to his chest and his opu, which is Pu'uheleakala, and his legs will jolt out towards Pu'umanawahua. And so from the vantage point, again, from the Maui stone in Garden Groves, in the early morning hour, you'll be able to see Maui reposing himself. Maui still here today. With that said, mahalo to all of you for attending our Ahapuka this year, and mahalo most of all for attending this presentation. And I hope you enjoyed all of the information that we have. Remember, e alu, e ahu, a ea. Mahalo nui loa, and have a beautiful day in our Hawaii. Aloha.